Every morning I felt sick, but the doctors couldn't figure out why. One day, a jeweler on the subway grabbed my hand. "Remove that necklace. There's something inside the pendant." I froze. My husband gave it to me. Can you imagine waking up every single day feeling like you're slowly dying, only to discover it's not some mystery illness, but a meticulously planned, sinister betrayal by someone you thought you could trust? And the weapon was a gift from your own husband? For too long, agonizing months, every single morning started the same way. A wave of pure nausea, a desperate sprint to the bathroom, then the gut-wrenching emptiness over the toilet. I'd be left completely wrung out, splashing cold water on my face, staring at a ghost in the mirror. Pale, hollowed eyes, cheekbones sharp enough to cut. I'd lost 15 pounds, and even though I was never overweight, I could feel the whispers at the pharmacy where I worked. Anorexia, nervous exhaustion. Then, Alex's worried face would appear, his voice soft, again. I could only nod. He'd wrap his arms around me, his familiar woody cologne, bergamot notes, a fleeting comfort. "What if we see another doctor?" he'd ask. "Mom says she knows a really good gastroenterologist." At the mention of his mother, Eleanor, I'd tense up involuntarily. She was the one cloud in our otherwise clear sky, a delicate subject we rarely touched. "Alex," I'd tell him, pulling away slightly, "I've seen 5 doctors. They all say the same thing. Tests are fine, organs are healthy. Maybe it's psychosomatic. Maybe I need a psychologist." Was it my imagination, or did a flicker of doubt cross his gaze? No, I must be imagining it. Alex loved me. I had no doubt. "I'm not crazy," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "I'm not saying you're crazy. It's just, Mom thinks." "And what else does your mother think?" The question flew out, sharper than I intended. Alex frowned, and an uncomfortable silence settled between us. I instantly regretted it. "I'm sorry, I'm just so tired. This nausea is draining me." He nodded, but I saw the shadow of hurt in his eyes. He could never take criticism of his mother. To him, Eleanor was an ideal, strong, wise, always right. And me, I was just the wife who, for some reason, couldn't find common ground with his perfect family. As I got ready for work, my fingers mechanically went to the silver pendant around my neck, an elegant oval with an engraved ivy leaf. Alex had given it to me for our 3rd anniversary 2 months ago. "So you can always feel my love close to you," he'd whispered, fastening it around my neck. I hadn't taken it off since. It was cool, pleasant against my skin. I even smiled faintly. Whatever else was happening, I had Alex, the man who had changed my life. On the subway, amidst the morning rush, the smell of coffee and perfume, the murmur of voices, I leaned against the handrail, closing my eyes. The nausea had subsided, but the weakness was still there, a constant hum beneath my skin. "Excuse me." The voice was shockingly close, and I jumped, my eyes snapping open. An older man stood before me, tall, with a neat gray beard and intelligent, dark eyes. He wore an old-fashioned, but well-kept suit. On his ring finger, a wide gold ring with an intricate engraving. "Do I know you?" I asked, bewildered. "No, but I must tell you something." He spoke softly, almost a whisper, leaning closer. He smelled of old books and something faintly metallic. "I'm sorry, I'm not interested." I tried to pull away, thinking he was just another city eccentric, or worse, a con man. But he gently touched my arm. Not grabbed, just a light, careful touch. "Take off the necklace. I see what's in it." I froze. My fingers flew to the pendant. "My husband gave it to me for our anniversary." "What do you think you're doing?" "Open it in front of me," the man said quietly. There was no threat, only a strange, terrifying certainty. "It doesn't open. It's a solid piece." The stranger shook his head. "Yes, it does. See that line on the side edge? It's a mechanism." I wanted to argue, to run, to call for help, but something in his eyes held me. He didn't seem mad, and certainly not a scammer. The train slowed. Doors opened. People flowed on and off. He took a business card from his pocket, pressing it into my hand. "Richard Sterling, jeweler and antiquarian. 40 years working with jewelry. If you don't believe me, check for yourself. But if you value your life, take that pendant off and never put it on again." He stepped out. The doors closed behind him. I stood there, clutching the card, my heart hammering so loud I was sure the entire car could hear it. The workday dragged, each minute a struggle. My pharmacy, my safe, familiar routine of 5 years, offered no comfort. "Sophia, you're so pale," Lucy, my friend and colleague, observed during a lull. "Morning sickness as always," I replied, forcing a bitter smile. 20 pregnancy tests, all negative. Lucy frowned. We'd been friends since pharmacy school. She knew more about my health than any doctor. Maybe a hidden infection? Parasites. They've tested me for everything. Nothing. What about a toxicology screen? I looked at her, surprised. Toxicology? You think someone's poisoning me? Lucy shrugged. Just going through options. The symptoms are very strange. Morning sickness, weakness, weight loss, and all tests normal. That can happen with chronic low-dose poisoning. My hands went cold. The stranger's words echoed, "If you value your life, take that pendant off." Lucy, that's ridiculous. No one would want to poison me. What about your mother-in-law? She asked, her gaze piercing. You've told me yourself how much she hates you, how she tried to break you two up, how she told Alex you weren't the woman for him. I shook my head. Yes, Eleanor and I had a terrible relationship, but poisoning? That sounded insane. She's overbearing, unpleasant, but not a murderer. Lucy fell silent, but her expression remained doubtful. I turned to the medicine shelf, pretending to check expiration dates, the jeweler's card burning in my pocket like a hot coal. That evening, I went straight to the bathroom. I stared at the pendant in the mirror. Alex had said he'd had it commissioned, an exclusive hand-engraved piece. My finger traced the side edge, and then I stopped. There it was, a fine, barely perceptible line, almost invisible. I'd always thought it was decorative, but now... Sophia, are you home? Alex's voice from the entryway startled me. I quickly hid the pendant under my blouse. Yes, I'm in the bathroom. I tried to sound natural as I went to greet him. He looked tired. He'd been working late for weeks on a big project. How are you feeling? He asked, kissing my forehead. Better. Barely any nausea today. See, maybe it's passing. I nodded, though I knew it wasn't true. The nausea hadn't disappeared. I just learned to hide it. But the weakness was growing, threatening to make my legs give out at any moment. During dinner, Alex talked about work, about their weekend plans. I listened with half an ear, my mind on the pendant. Should I tell him about the strange jeweler? Or would he just think I was crazy? Again suggesting a psychologist? Mom asked us to stop by on Sunday, Alex said casually. I stifled a sigh. She's worried about you. My skepticism was obvious. Alex frowned. Sophia, you're unfair to her. She wants to help. Help? Your mother has hated me from day one. You know that. That's not true. Not true. Who told me at our wedding I was ruining her son's life? Who called you every day for the first year, trying to convince you to divorce me? Who still refers to me as that woman instead of my name? Alex put down his fork. She has a difficult character, but she's my mother. And that means I have to endure her humiliations. A heavy silence. I watched him struggle, caught between his love for me and his loyalty to his mother. It was a 3-year battle, always ending the same way, Alex trying to please both and me suffering. Let's not argue, he said finally. You're sick, I'm tired. Let's talk about this later. I wanted to retort, but held back. He was right. We were both too exhausted. That night, I lay awake, listening to Alex's even breathing. The pendant was still on my neck, warm against my skin. The jeweler's words haunted me. What had he seen? Why was he so sure it was dangerous? An old memory surfaced, unwanted, but vivid. My first meeting with Eleanor 4 years ago. A restaurant, a panoramic view. I'd been so excited, so eager to please. Eleanor arrived 20 minutes late, her signature move, I'd later learn. Tall, imposing, perfect hair, cold blue-gray eyes. She'd looked me over, lip pressed almost imperceptibly. So this is your choice. She addressed Alex as if I wasn't there. Mom, this is Sophia. Sophia, this is my mother, Eleanor. A pleasure to meet you. I'd smiled, extending my hand. She'd looked at it as if it were something unpleasant, barely touching it with her fingertips. The whole evening, she interrogated me like a prosecutor, my parents, their jobs, my education, my earnings. Did I own a home? My answers clearly didn't satisfy her. My parents were simple. My dad an electrician, my mom a nurse. We lived in a small 2-bedroom in Queens. I see, she said after one answer. And what are your plans for my son? Mom, Alex had protested. What? I have a right to know what this girl's intentions are. I hadn't known what to say. I loved Alex. Wasn't that enough? For Eleanor, love was abstract. She thought in terms of benefits, status, prospects. After that meeting, she called Alex for 2 hours, trying to convince him to break up. That girl isn't for you. She's a gold digger. You deserve someone from your own circle. Alex hadn't listened. He was ready to do anything for our love. We married a year later, despite all of Eleanor's objections. At the wedding, she sat stone-faced, leaving ostentatiously right after the ceremony. You've ruined my son's life, she'd whispered to me. He will never forgive you for this. 3 years. Eleanor never gave up, just changed tactics. No more open scandals, just subtle digs. Daily calls to Alex, complaints about her health, demands for attention. Every meeting, a fresh humiliation, a comment about my hair, my clothes, my cooking. I'm surprised you haven't poisoned your husband with your casseroles yet, she'd once said at dinner. I remembered my heart sinking, and Alex remaining silent, pretending not to hear. Dawn came too quickly. Nausea, stronger than ever, hit with the first rays of sun. I barely made it to the bathroom, vomiting until my vision blurred. When it was over, I collapsed onto the cold tile floor, utterly drained. What was happening to me? Why couldn't doctors find anything? The pendant was cool against my skin, a stark reminder. Suddenly, an irresistible urge. Rip it off, throw it away, get rid of it forever. But it was a gift from my husband, the only piece of jewelry he'd ever picked for me. Still, with trembling hands, I unfastened the clasp and left it on the shelf above the sink. Then, with an effort, I got up, washed my face, and went to the kitchen. Alex had already left. A note on the table, breakfast in the fridge. Love you. Don't forget about Sunday. Sunday, the visit to his mother. I crumpled the note and threw it away. The day felt strange. Without the pendant, I felt better. The nausea didn't vanish completely, but it was less intense. At lunch, I even ate normally for the first time in weeks. You look better today, Lucy noted. Seriously, you have some color. You look like a person again. I was lost in thought. Could the pendant really be connected? It sounded crazy. But that evening, I took out Richard's business card. Jeweler and antiquarian. Appraisal. Repair expertise. The address was a small workshop in an old part of the city. Should I go? I thought, at least to find out what he meant. But at the last moment, I changed my mind. He probably just wanted to scam me. I put the pendant back on and went asleep. The next morning began with such a severe attack of nausea that I lost consciousness in the bathroom. I woke on the cold, hard floor, head spinning, metallic taste in my mouth. What's happening to me? I whispered into the void. Barely getting up, I looked in the mirror and shuddered. The face of a seriously ill person stared back. Gray, gaunt, bluish tin under my eyes. I'd never felt so bad. My hands went to the pendant's clasp. I took it off, leaving it on the shelf, just like before. And as if by magic, the pressure in my stomach eased. That day, I didn't go to work calling in sick. I spent the whole day at home, without the pendant. By evening, I felt almost normal. I ate dinner, watched a movie, even took a short walk. Before bed, afraid Alex would notice its absence, I put the jewelry back on. The morning greeted me with another attack. Now, there was no doubt. 2 days without the pendant, relative relief. 2 days with the pendant, a horrific state. It couldn't be a coincidence. I'm going crazy, I told myself. But my hands were already dialing the number from the business card. Sterling. Richard answered on the third ring. Hello. We met on the subway a few days ago. You told me about my pendant. A pause. Then a voice filled with relief. You finally called. Thank God. I was afraid I hadn't made it in time. Hadn't made it in time for what? To save you, my dear girl. To save you. Richard Sterling's workshop was in an old building. High ceilings, narrow windows, creaky wooden floors. A sign read, Jewelry Workshop, Appraisal, Repair Expertise. Since 1978. I pushed the heavy door. Inside, glass display cases, and behind the counter, Bent over a magnifying glass was the same man. "Come in," he said, not looking up. "Did you bring the pendant?" "Yes." I took the jewelry from my pocket, placing it on the counter. Richard set aside his work, carefully examining it without touching. Then, with thin gloves, he took it. "I didn't introduce myself properly. Richard Sterling. Before retiring, I worked as a forensic expert in the Major Crimes Unit, specializing in poisoning and toxicology. For the last 15 years, I've been in the jewelry business, a hobby that became a profession, so to speak. A forensic expert. My hands went cold. Precisely. And when I saw your pendant on the subway, I knew right away something was wrong. I've worked with poisonings for too many years not to recognize the characteristic symptoms. The color of your face, the dark circles, the general exhaustion. A classic picture of chronic intoxication. But the doctors found nothing because they weren't looking in the right place. They were analyzing your body when what needed to be analyzed was your environment." He turned the pendant on its side. "Do you see this line? It's not decorative. It's a hidden mechanism." Richard took a thin tool, like a dental probe, carefully inserting it into the barely visible slit. A soft click. The pendant opened into 2 halves. I stifled a cry. Inside, in a tiny hollow, lay a microcapsule, no bigger than a grain of rice. Semi-transparent, with a dark substance inside. "What is this?" I whispered. "This, my dear, is the explanation for your illness. A microcapsule with a substance released upon contact with human body heat. You wear the pendant on your chest, the warmest place. The capsule heats up, its walls become permeable, and the poison slowly but surely enters your system through the skin." I felt like I was going to faint. Richard quickly sat me in a chair, handing me water. "Breathe. Take a deep breath." Who did this?" "I don't know that, but I can tell you, this is not a manufacturing defect or an accident. Someone intentionally modified this piece of jewelry to harm you. But it's a gift from my husband. He couldn't have." The jeweler held up a hand. "I'm not saying your husband did it. It's possible he doesn't even suspect its contents. But someone with access to this pendant turned it into a murder weapon." "Murder!" I could barely speak. "Not immediately, of course. Slow poisoning is always a long-term game. They would have attributed it to some disease, maybe cancer. Doctors would find organ malfunction, but never the cause. The perfect crime." I covered my face with my hands, unable to process it. "Who could want me dead? And why?" "We need to run a test," Richard continued. "Determine what exactly is in this capsule and find who put it there. It's too soon for the police. We don't have proof of a crime, only suspicion. First, the analysis, then we decide how to proceed." I nodded, my head spinning. "Do you have someone you trust? Friends, family?" "My friend Lucy. She's a nurse." "Good. We might need her help. And for now, not a word to your husband. I understand it's difficult, but until we know who is behind this, we can't take any risks." Leaving the workshop, I felt as if my world had collapsed and rebuilt, but in a distorted, nightmarish way. The husband I loved had given me a poison pendant. His mother who hated me. Could it be possible? No. It was too much. Impossible. But the capsule with poison was very real, and someone had put it there. I spent the evening in a daze. I made dinner, talked to Alex, watched TV, but it was all mechanical. Only one thought spun in my head. "You're a little off today," Alex noted before bed. "Just tired. Still not feeling well." "A little." I swallowed a lump in my throat. "Alex, where did you buy my pendant?" He looked at me, surprised. "At a jewelry store on Madison Avenue." "Why?" "Just curious. Did you pick it out yourself?" "Well, yes. I mean, Mom helped me choose it. She knows a lot about jewelry." I felt icy fingers squeeze my heart. Your mother?" "Yes." I showed her several options, and she said this one was the most beautiful. "Why do you ask?" "No reason, just wanted to know." I turned to the wall, so he wouldn't see my face. Eleanor had helped choose the pendant. Eleanor, who from day one had dreamed of getting rid of me. But to suspect my mother-in-law of attempted murder? It was madness. The delirium of a paranoid woman. And yet, you've ruined my son's life. He will never forgive you for this. Her wedding words came back with terrifying clarity. Back then, I'd taken them as the malice of an offended mother. But what if there was something more? The next day, I met Lucy at a coffee shop. She listened, her horror growing. Oh my God! Sophia, are you sure? The jeweler showed me the capsule. Inside the pendant, tiny with a substance. He thinks it's poison. He's a former forensic expert. He says my symptoms are typical of chronic poisoning. Lucy was silent, processing. And you think it was your mother-in-law? I don't know, but Alex said she helped choose the pendant and had access to it. She often comes to our apartment when I'm not there. She has keys. But that's murder. Attempted murder, I corrected her. As long as I'm still alive. Lucy grabbed my hand. You have to go to the police. Richard says we need the analysis first. Otherwise, they won't believe us. What analysis? An official one. Yes, he knows people who can help, but it will take time. Lucy frowned. And have you told Alex? I shook my head. I can't. If it's his mother, he won't believe me. He'll take her side, like he always does. You're being unfair. Maybe this time, Lucy. You don't understand. I've lived with him for 3 years. Every time it comes to his mother, he becomes blind and deaf. To him, she's a saint, and I'm a hysteric who exaggerates. Lucy squeezed my hand. Then let's gather proof. Irrefutable proof, so he can't deny it. I nodded. It was the only way. My life turned into a strange spy game. I wore the pendant so Alex wouldn't notice its absence, but took it off at every opportunity. At work, it stayed in my desk drawer. At home, on the bathroom shelf. I told Alex the chain irritated my neck. Richard sent the capsule for analysis to an old acquaintance, a toxicologist. Results in a week. Meanwhile, I secretly watched my mother-in-law. Easier than I thought. Eleanor was an active social media user. Meetings, theater, charity. The perfect image of a successful retiree. But among the photos, I found something interesting. 2 months ago, just before our anniversary, a picture from that Madison Avenue jewelry store. Helping my son with a gift for his wife. The caption read, Eleanor posing by a display case. So she really was there. She really touched the pendant. But it still didn't prove anything. I kept digging, noticing things I hadn't before. How often Eleanor came to our apartment when I wasn't there. How Alex told her everything. How she always knew our plans, our schedules, even our fridge contents. She controls our life. I realized with horror. She always has. On Sunday, as planned, we went to Eleanor's. I wore the pendant. I had no choice. Eleanor noticed it immediately. Oh, what a beautiful pendant, she said, her voice honeyed. Son, did you give this to her? Yes, Mom, for our anniversary. How lovely. Let me see it closer. She reached for it, and I instinctively recoiled. What's wrong with you? Eleanor frowned. I just want to admire it. I'm sorry, I'm just not feeling very well. Always with your ailments. There was barely concealed irritation in her voice. Alex, you should really take her to a good psychiatrist. A normal woman doesn't get sick for no reason. I clenched my teeth to keep from responding. Lunch passed in a tense atmosphere. Eleanor, as usual, didn't miss an opportunity to jab at me. Comments about my paleness, thinness, ineptitude in the kitchen, all disguised as maternal concern. Alex is so thin, she lamented. You're probably not feeding him. Mom, I'm fine. Alex tried to intervene. Of course, you say that so as not to upset her. But I can see. When you lived with me, you were such a strong, healthy boy. I ate my salad in silence, counting the minutes until we could leave. Then I noticed something strange. Eleanor was looking at my pendant, not just looking, but studying it with predatory focus, as if checking it was in place. Our eyes met, and she instantly looked away, putting on a fake smile. A little more salad, dear. A chill ran down my spine. It was the look of someone with a terrible secret. On the way home, I was silent. Alex, used to my gloom after visits to his mother, didn't ask questions. He turned on the radio. Alex, I said suddenly, if you had to choose between your mother and me, who would you choose? He glanced at me, surprised. What kind of question is that? Just answer. Silence. Sophia, that's not fair. You're both important to me. You don't have to put me in that position. And if you had to, more silence. Then, I hope I never have to. It wasn't an answer. And I understood that when the time came, he wouldn't take my side. He would try to please both of them, choose neutrality. and I would be left alone. The analysis results came 5 days later. Richard called me at work, his voice grim. "Can you come by? We need to talk." At the workshop, he waited with a thick folder. "Sit down," he indicated a chair. "The news is not good." My legs went weak. "What's in it?" "Thallium. Thallium. A heavy metal. One of the most toxic to humans. Used to be used to poison rats, but then it was banned. Too dangerous. In chronic poisoning, it causes nausea, weakness, hair loss, nervous system damage. In high doses, it's lethal." I gripped the table. "But how? How did it get into the pendant?" "That's the main question." Richard opened the folder. "The capsule was custom-made. It wasn't an accident. Someone knew what they were doing. The walls of the capsule are a special material that becomes permeable at temperatures above 86 degrees Fahrenheit. When you wear the pendant, it warms from your body, and the thallium is slowly released through the skin." "But where would a normal person get thallium?" "It's not easy, but possible. Used to be sold in rat poisons. Now banned, of course, but on the black market, or if someone kept old stock." I remembered Eleanor's house, an old apartment with a storeroom full of junk. She boasted she never threw anything away. "You never know what might be useful." "I need to check something," I said. "What exactly?" "My mother-in-law has a storeroom. She keeps everything, including old chemicals. Maybe." Richard frowned. "That's dangerous. If she's really behind this, and for now it's just a guess, she won't stop." "I know, but I need proof." "Then be careful, and don't go alone." I nodded. I knew who I'd take with me. Lucy received the idea with mixed feelings. "Sneaking into your mother-in-law's house? Sophia, you're crazy." "It's not sneaking. It's a legal inspection. Alex will give me the keys. He won't ask why. I'll tell him I want a recipe from an old cookbook. He's at work all day anyway." Lucy shook her head. "This is a bad idea. Do you have a better one?" My friend was silent. There was no better idea. The plan was simple. I'd ask Alex for the keys to his mother's apartment, using the cookbook recipe as an excuse. Then, while Eleanor was at her weekly opera club, Lucy and I would enter and inspect the storeroom. It sounded like a bad detective movie, but I couldn't think of anything better. Alex gave me the keys without many questions. He was too busy. "Just don't leave anything messy." "Mom doesn't like it," he asked. I promised. On Thursday evening, when Eleanor left for the opera, we stood at her door. "Ready," Lucy whispered. I nodded, inserting the key. Eleanor's apartment was as I remembered, impeccably clean, exquisitely decorated and cold. Everything in its place, every object silently declaring, "Don't touch me." "Where's the storeroom?" Lucy whispered. "Doors in the kitchen. Stairs lead down." We walked through the hallway, trying not to make a sound, even though it was empty. I found the storeroom door, old wood, a heavy lock. "Damn, it's locked." Alex only gave me the front door key. Lucy examined the lock. "It's an old one. You can open it with a hairpin. Can you do it?" She smiled. As a kid, I had access to all the neighbor sheds. 5 minutes later, the lock clicked. I pushed the door. A smell of dampness and dust hit us. The stairs were steep and dark. I turned on my phone's flashlight and started down, Lucy behind me. The storeroom was huge, a labyrinth of shelves filled with boxes, jars, old junk. From grandmother's dishes to antique typewriters. "What are we looking for?" Lucy whispered. "I don't know exactly. Chemicals, poisons, something suspicious." We split up. I methodically examined shelves, opening jars. Most were harmless. Old photos, documents, Alex's childhood toys. Then I froze. On the bottom shelf, behind rows of dusty jam jars, was a tin box with a faded inscription. I picked it up, wiped the lid, and read, "Potent rodenticide. Contents: thallium sulfate." My heart hammered, so fast I feared it could be heard. With trembling hands, I opened the box. Inside, a half-empty bag of gray powder. "Lucy!" I called in a choked whisper. "Lucy, I found it." She ran over, then froze, staring at the box. "That's it. Thallium sulfate. The same substance that was in the pendant." Lucy photographed it with her phone. "We need to take this as evidence." I nodded, about to grab the box, when we heard the sound of a door opening upstairs. We froze. Footsteps. Someone was walking around the apartment. Then Eleanor's voice. Alex, are you here? Lucy and I looked at each other in horror. Eleanor was back early. This way, I mouthed, pulling Lucy into a dark corner behind an old wardrobe. We hid, holding our breath. Footsteps above. Eleanor was in the kitchen. How strange, her voice came. The storeroom door is open. The footsteps approached the stairs. I squeezed my eyes shut. The lock must have broken again, Eleanor muttered. I need to call a locksmith. The sound of the door closing. The click of the lock. We were trapped. Damn it, Lucy whispered. Shua. I put a finger to my lips. Silence reigned upstairs. Eleanor had apparently gone to another part of the apartment, but now it was impossible to get out. What do we do now? Lucy asked, barely audible. Wait. Sooner or later, she'll go to bed. And what if she doesn't? I didn't answer. I didn't know. We spent 3 hours in that storeroom, 3 hours in the dark, cold, and fear of being discovered. Lucy periodically checked her phone. No service. The thick walls blocked the signal. Finally, around midnight, footsteps above. Eleanor went to her bedroom. The kitchen light went out. Let's wait another hour, I decided. Let her fall soundly asleep. The hour dragged on eternally. But when complete silence took over, we acted. Lucy worked the lock again. From the inside, it opened even more easily. The door creaked softly, and we slipped into the kitchen. The apartment was dark. Somewhere behind a closed door, Eleanor snores. On tiptoe like thieves, we reached the entryway. I put my hand on the doorknob when the hallway light clicked on. In the bedroom doorway stood Eleanor in a silk nightgown, a murderous look on her face. Well, my dear daughter-in-law. I knew it was you. I froze. Lucy stifled a scream behind me. Eleanor, quiet! Eleanor's voice was cold as steel. I see everything. The box with the thallium in your purse. You decided to frame me. Come in. Plant the evidence, and then accuse me of poisoning. What? No, don't deny it. I knew you were cunning, but not this cunning. Eleanor took a step forward. First, you bewitched my son. Now you're trying to get rid of me. But you won't succeed, do you hear me? You won't succeed. She took out her phone. I'm calling Alex and the police right now. Let's see how you explain breaking into my house in the middle of the night. Wait! I cried. It wasn't me. It was you. You put the thallium in my pendant. Eleanor let out an unpleasant cackling laugh. What nonsense! Have you gone completely mad? I always told Alex that woman isn't right in the head. It's not nonsense. There's an analysis. Richard? Who? Richard. Some old man from a shabby workshop who's willing to sign any paper for money. Eleanor was dialing. Let's see what the police have to say. I looked at Lucy in desperation. She was pale, clutching her phone. And then my friend stepped forward. I recorded everything. Eleanor froze. What did you record? Everything. Everything you just said. Lucy held up her phone. I turned on the recorder when we were in the storeroom, just in case. And now I have your words about the thallium, about how you knew about it. You've incriminated yourself. Eleanor turned pale. That's illegal. Recording without consent. Poisoning people is illegal, I said quietly. For 2 months, I've been dying from your poison. Every morning I woke up in hell, and you were there, smiling. I didn't do anything. The thallium in the storeroom, the pendant. You helped pick it out. You had access to it. You often come to our apartment when I'm not there. That's circumstantial evidence. It doesn't prove anything. And the analysis, the capsule with your fingerprints on it, do you think the forensic team won't find anything? Eleanor fell silent. Her face, usually haughty and confident, now showed fear. What were you trying to do? I asked. Kill me? Or did you just want me to get sick so Alex would leave me? Eleanor swallowed hard. You're not worthy of him. And for that, I deserve to die. I didn't want to. I thought you would just get sick. You'd become weak, helpless, and Alex would see how pathetic and useless you really are and leave you himself. But thallium is lethal. I didn't know. Eleanor cried. I thought it would just make you suffer a little. I looked at this woman, until recently so fearsome and powerful, and felt only emptiness. Not hatred, not fear, just immense exhaustion. Lucy, call the police, I said softly. Eleanor lunged at me. No, wait. We can make a deal. I'll give you money. A lot of money, but don't call the police. It's too late, I replied. Much too late. The police arrived in 20 minutes. They took Eleanor away in handcuffs, disheveled, shouting about injustice and conspiracies. I stood on the sidewalk, wrapped in an officer's jacket, watching the flashing blue and red lights. Lucy had her arm around my shoulders. How are you? I don't know. Empty. It's normal. It's shock. I need to call Alex. The police have already notified him. He's on his way. I closed my eyes. Soon my husband would arrive, and I would have to tell him that his mother was a poisoner, that the woman he'd idolized his whole life had tried to kill his wife. How would he take it? Alex appeared half an hour later, pale, lost. He ran to me. What happened? What's going on with Mom? They called me. They said, Alex. My voice was low, tired. We need to talk. We sat in his car. The police had left. Lucy had gone home. We were alone. In the silence of the night, under the dim streetlights, I told him everything. From the morning sickness that hadn't let up, to the jeweler, the thallium capsule, the analysis. Alex listened in silence, his face expressionless, like a mask. Only the white knuckles gripping the steering wheel betrayed his tension. When I finished, a long, heavy, unbearable silence fell. You don't believe me, do you? I said quietly. It wasn't a question. Alex's voice trembled. I don't know what to think. It's my mother. She couldn't. There's an analysis. There's thallium found in her storeroom. There's a recording where she admits it. She was in shock. You caught her off guard in the middle of the night. People say crazy things when they're scared. I closed my eyes. There it was. My greatest fear. He was choosing his mother again. Alex, your mother has been poisoning me for 2 months. Every day I wore that pendant. Poison was entering my body. You saw how I was wasting away, how I couldn't eat, how I was fainting. And you think it's a coincidence. But why? Why would she do it? She said it herself. She wanted me to get sick, for you to see me as weak and pathetic. So you would leave me. Alex slammed his fist on the steering wheel. This is insane. My mother is not a murderer. And who put the thallium in the pendant? Did I poison myself? I turned to him, and in his eyes I saw something terrible, doubt. He was actually considering that possibility. Alex! My voice turned icy. Do you really think I'm capable of something like that? No. I don't know. I don't understand anything. He got out of the car, pacing the sidewalk, holding his head. I got out after him. Alex, listen. No. He turned sharply. I can't talk about this now. I need to think. I need to see Mom. Talk to her. She's at the station. They won't release her until the trial. I'll find a way. He got back in his car and drove off, leaving me alone on the deserted street. I watched his taillights disappear, feeling something inside me break. Slowly, painfully, I took a cab home. The apartment met me with silence and darkness. I turned on the light, freezing before the mirror. An exhausted woman with a dull gaze stared back. I wasn't wearing the pendant. They'd taken it as evidence. Strangely, without it, I felt freer, lighter. Or maybe it was just nervous exhaustion. I fell into a heavy, restless sleep. Morning brought a headache and a text from Lucy. How are you? Call me when you wake up. I called her. Hey, I'm still alive. Alex came by. He left. Said he needs to think and talk to his mother. Lucy swore. He still doesn't believe you. He's torn. It's his mother, Lucy. He can't just accept she's a criminal. And you're his wife, the victim. He should be on your side. I sighed wearily. He should be, but he won't be. At least not right away. And what are you going to do? Wait. I have no other choice. The day passed in a gray haze. I went to work mechanically, performing my duties, returning to an empty apartment. Alex called once every 2 or 3 days, short, formal conversations about nothing. He'd ask how I felt. I'd say normal. Both of us knew it was a lie. Lucy came over every evening with food, movies, attempts to cheer me up. I was grateful, but even her presence couldn't fill the void. Richard didn't leave me alone either. He called, asked about the investigation, gave advice. It turned out he still had contacts in law enforcement. The analysis is almost ready, he informed me. My source says everything is pointing in your favor. That should have made me happy. But I only felt tired. Even if they convicted Eleanor, what would change? Alex would still not forgive me for betraying his mother. A week passed, then 2. I began to get used to the loneliness, the quiet evenings, the empty half of the bed, the absence of his voice. It was painful, but the pain became a familiar background ache. Then the detective called. "Sophia, we have the results of the analysis. Can you come in?" A surprise awaited me in his office. Alex was already there, haggard, dark circles under his eyes. When he saw me, he looked away. "Please have a seat," the detective indicated. "I decided to invite you both because this matter concerns your family." I sat down, trying not to look at Alex. "So, the analysis results." The detective opened a folder. The thallium from the pendant's capsule and the thallium from the jar in Eleanor's storeroom are identical. Furthermore, on the inner surface of the capsule, we found partial fingerprints that match the suspect's. A huge weight lifted from my shoulders. There it was. Proof. In addition, the detective continued, we found a search history on Eleanor's computer. A month before your wedding anniversary, she searched for information on thallium, its properties, methods of use, and symptoms of poisoning. Alex turned pale. "That can't be." "Unfortunately, it can. Your mother prepared the crime meticulously. She studied the subject, bought a special slow-release capsule. They're sold online for aromatherapy, by the way, and filled it with thallium." "But why?" Alex's voice trembled. "Why would she do it?" "She can answer that herself." During interrogation, under the pressure of the evidence, Eleanor confessed. I froze. She confessed. "Yes, completely." The detective pulled a transcript from the folder. Here are excerpts from her statement. I quote, "I wanted that woman out of my son's life. She is not worthy of him. I thought if she got sick, he would see how weak she was and leave her. I didn't want to kill her. Just make her helpless." Silence fell. I looked at Alex. His face was gray. His lips trembled. "It's true," he whispered. "It really is." "Yes," the detective nodded. "Your mother committed attempted murder. The case is going to trial." Alex covered his face with his hands. His shoulders began to shake. He was crying. I watched him and didn't know what to feel. Relief, pity, anger. "I need to see her," Alex said, his voice hoarse. "Talk to her." "It's possible. I'll arrange a meeting." We left the office in silence. On the street, Alex stopped, not looking at me. "Sophia, not now," I said flatly. "First, talk to your mother. Hear everything from her firsthand, and then we'll talk." I turned and walked away, feeling his gaze on my back. Inside, I was empty. No joy from the victory, no relief from justice, just exhaustion. That evening, Lucy called. "I heard." The detective confirmed it. "It was her." "Yes." "Sophia, you should be happy. Justice has been served." "I guess. What's wrong with you? You sound so down." I sighed. "Lucy, my mother-in-law wanted to kill me. My husband took weeks to decide who to believe. Even now, with everything proven, I'm not sure he'll forgive me for destroying his family." "What is there to celebrate?" Lucy was silent. "Do you think your marriage?" "I don't know. Honestly, I don't know." "And do you want to save this marriage?" The question hung in the air. I thought about it. I did want to. 3 years of love, of life together. Alex wasn't a bad husband. Weak, indecisive, too dependent on his mother, but not bad. He loved me in his own way as he knew how. "I don't know," I answered honestly. "I did before. Now, too much has happened. Maybe you two need to really talk without emotions. Maybe. When he's ready." Alex was ready the next day. He came in the afternoon with flowers, a guilty look in his eyes. I opened the door and let him in without a word. "I saw Mom," he said, sitting on the sofa. "We talked for 2 hours, and she really did it. She confessed everything to me, without excuses, without trying to blame anyone." I sat in the armchair across from him. "What did she tell you?" Alex took a deep breath. "That she hated you from day one. That she considered you unworthy of me. That I'm her only son, and she couldn't stand another woman stealing me from her. And that's why she decided to poison you. She said she didn't want to kill you, just make you sick. Alex, thallium is lethal. If I had worn that pendant for a few more months." "I know." His voice broke. "I know. And God, Sophia, I'm such an idiot. I didn't believe you. I defended her when I should have been defending you." He covered his face with his hands. I almost lost you because of my own blindness. I watched him, broken, defeated. A part of me wanted to go to him, to hug him, to comfort him. Another part, the one that had suffered for weeks, demanded justice. You took her side, I said softly. When I needed your support the most, you left. I know, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. That's not enough. Alex looked up. What do you mean? Words. Apologies. I'll regret it. They're just words. You've always said the right things, Alex. And then you did what your mother wanted. But now what? She'll be in prison. She won't influence our life anymore. But you'll still be the same person. A person who can't choose, who tries to please everyone, and ends up betraying those who love him most. Alex stood up and came over to me. He knelt in front of the armchair. Sophia, listen to me. I know I screwed up. I know I should have believed you from the beginning, but I was in shock. Finding out your mother is a criminal, it's like the world caves in under your feet. And how do you think I felt? Finding out my mother-in-law wanted to kill me, and my husband believed her more than me? He lowered his head. You're right. I have no right to ask for forgiveness. No, you do. But forgiveness isn't a button you can press. It's a long and painful process. Alex looked into my eyes. Are you saying there's a chance that we can? I don't know, Alex. I really don't. Right now I'm hurt. I feel pain and resentment. I can't pretend everything is okay. I'm not asking you to pretend. I'm asking you to give me a chance to prove that I can change. I was silent for a long time. 3 years of love, 3 years of hopes. Was it all for nothing? All right, I said finally. One chance. But if you ever again, there won't be a next time. I swear. He took my hand and kissed it. I didn't pull away, but I didn't respond either. I had too many doubts. You should go, I said. I need to be alone. Alex nodded, stood up, grabbed his jacket. I'll call you tomorrow. Call me. When the door closed behind him, I threw the phone onto the sofa and burst into tears. For the first time in these crazy days, tears streamed down my cheeks, my body shaking with sobs. I didn't try to hold them back. I was alone. Completely alone. The next few days blended into a gray, formless blur. I went to work mechanically, performed my duties, returned to an empty apartment. Alex called once every 2 or 3 days, short, formal conversations about nothing. He would ask how I was feeling. I would answer normal. Both knew it was a lie. Lucy came over every evening with food, movies, attempts to cheer me up. I was grateful, but even her presence couldn't fill the void. Richard didn't leave me alone either. He called, asked about the investigation's progress, gave advice. It turned out he still had contacts in law enforcement and could get first-hand information. The analysis is almost ready, he informed her one day. The results will be in soon. And what do they say? I don't know for sure yet, but my source says everything is pointing in your favor. That should have made me happy, but I only felt tired. Even if they convicted Eleanor, what would change? Alex would still not forgive me for betraying his mother. A week passed, then 2. I began to get used to the loneliness, the quiet evenings, the empty half of the bed, the absence of a male voice in the apartment. It was painful, but the pain became a familiar background ache. And then the detective called. Sophia, we have the results of the analysis. Can you come in? A surprise awaited me in the detective's office. Alex was already there. He looked haggard, with dark circles under his eyes, and when he saw me, he looked away. Please have a seat. The detective indicated a chair. I decided to invite you both because this matter concerns your family. I sat down, trying not to look at my husband. So, the analysis results. The detective opened a folder. The thallium from the pendant's capsule and the thallium from the jar in Eleanor's storeroom are identical. Furthermore, on the inner surface of the capsule, we found partial fingerprints that matched the suspects. I felt a huge weight lift from my shoulders. There it was, proof. In addition, the detective continued, we found a search history on Eleanor's computer. A month before your wedding anniversary, she searched for information on thallium, its properties, methods of use, and symptoms of poisoning. Alex turned pale. That can't be. Unfortunately, it can. Your mother prepared the crime meticulously. She studied the subject, bought a special slow-release capsule. They're sold online for aromatherapy, by the way, and filled it with thallium. But why? Alex's voice trembled. Why would she do it? She can answer that herself. During interrogation, under the pressure of the evidence, Eleanor confessed. I froze. She confessed. Yes, completely. The detective pulled a transcript from the folder. Here are excerpts from her statement. I quote, I wanted that woman out of my son's life. She is not worthy of him. I thought if she got sick, he would see how weak she was and leave her. I didn't want to kill her. Just make her helpless. Silence fell in the office. I looked at Alex. His face was gray. His lips were trembling. It's true, he whispered. It really is. Yes, the detective nodded. Your mother committed attempted murder. The case is going to trial. Alex covered his face with his hands. His shoulders began to shake. He was crying. I watched him and didn't know what to feel. Relief, pity, anger. I need to see her, Alex said in a hoarse voice. Talk to her. It's possible. I'll arrange a meeting. We left the office in silence. On the street, Alex stopped, not looking at me. Sophia, not now, I said flatly. First, talk to your mother. Hear everything from her firsthand, and then we'll talk. I turned and walked away, feeling his gaze on my back. Inside, I was empty. No joy from the victory, no relief from justice, just exhaustion. That evening, Lucy called. I heard. The detective confirmed it. It was her. Yes. Sophia, you should be happy. Justice has been served. I guess. What's wrong with you? You sound so down. I sighed. Lucy, my mother-in-law wanted to kill me. My husband took weeks to decide who to believe. Even now, with everything proven, I'm not sure he'll forgive me for destroying his family. What is there to celebrate? Lucy was silent. Do you think your marriage? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. And do you want to save this marriage? The question hung in the air. I thought about it. I did want to. 3 years of love, of life together. Alex wasn't a bad husband. Weak, indecisive, too dependent on his mother, but not bad. He loved me in his own way as he knew how. I don't know, I answered honestly. I did before. Now, too much has happened. Maybe you two need to really talk without emotions. Maybe. When he's ready. Alex was ready the next day. He came in the afternoon with flowers, a guilty look in his eyes. I opened the door and let him in without a word. I saw Mom, he said, sitting on the sofa. We talked for 2 hours, and she really did it. She confessed everything to me. Without excuses, without trying to blame anyone. I sat in the armchair across from him. What did she tell you? Alex took a deep breath. That she hated you from day one. That she considered you unworthy of me. That I'm her only son, and she couldn't stand another woman stealing me from her. And that's why she decided to poison you. She said she didn't want to kill you, just make you sick. Alex, thallium is lethal. If I had worn that pendant for a few more months. I know. His voice broke. I know. And God, Sophia, I'm such an idiot. I didn't believe you. I defended her when I should have been defending you. He covered his face with his hands. I almost lost you because of my own blindness. I watched him, broken, defeated. A part of me wanted to go to him, to hug him, to comfort him. Another part, the one that had suffered for weeks, demanded justice. You took her side, I said softly. When I needed your support the most, you left. I know, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. That's not enough. Alex looked up. What do you mean? Words. Apologies. I'll regret it. They're just words. You've always said the right things, Alex. And then you did what your mother wanted. But now what? She'll be in prison. She won't influence our life anymore. But you'll still be the same person. A person who can't choose, who tries to please everyone, and ends up betraying those who love him most. Alex stood up and came over to me. He knelt in front of the armchair. Sophia, listen to me. I know I screwed up. I know I should have believed you from the beginning, but I was in shock. Finding out your mother is a criminal, it's like the world caves in under your feet. And how do you think I felt? Finding out my mother-in-law wanted to kill me, and my husband believed her more than me? He lowered his head. You're right. I have no right to ask for forgiveness. No, you do. But forgiveness isn't a button you can press. It's a long and painful process. Alex looked into my eyes. Are you saying there's a chance? That we can? I don't know, Alex. I really don't. Right now I'm hurt. I feel pain and resentment. I can't pretend everything is okay. I'm not asking you to pretend. I'm asking you to give me a chance to prove that I can change. I was silent for a long time. 3 years of love, 3 years of hopes. Was it all for nothing? All right, I said finally. One chance. But if you ever again, there won't be a next time. I swear. He took my hand and kissed it. I didn't pull away, but I didn't respond either. I had too many doubts. You should go, I said. I need to be alone. Alex nodded, stood up, grabbed his jacket. I'll call you tomorrow. Call me. When the door closed behind him, I sat in the dark for a long time. My heart was torn between love and resentment, hope and fear. I didn't know what would happen, but one thing was clear: forgiving would not be easy. The trial against Eleanor was held 3 months later. I sat in the courtroom, my hands clasped in my lap. Next to me was Lucy, my loyal friend, who hadn't left my side for a minute. Alex sat at the other end of the room alone. Since that night, our relationship had been strange. Not cold, but not close either. He would come over, we would talk, sometimes have dinner together, but he was still sleeping at his friend's place. Until you're ready, he had told me. I'll wait. And he waited patiently, without reproach. He sent me texts every day without demanding anything, just a good morning and a good night. He would bring me groceries when I forgot to go to the store. He would drive me to work when I was running late. Small things. But from these small things, something new was emerging. They brought Eleanor into the courtroom in handcuffs. She had aged a lot in those months. She had lost weight, was stooped. Her hair had turned completely white, but her gaze was still the same, cold and contemptuous. When she saw me, a flicker of hatred crossed her face. The session lasted several hours. The prosecutor read the evidence. Her lawyer tried to mitigate the accusation. Eleanor sat upright with a stone face. When she was given the last word, she stood up and scanned the room. I don't regret it, she said. This woman destroyed my family. She took my son from me. I was defending my child like any mother would. My heart sank. Even now, on the defendant's stand, she did not admit her guilt. Mrs. Eleanor, the judge frowned. You are accused of attempted murder. Your victim, your own daughter-in-law. You consider that a defense. I consider it a mother's love. A murmur went through the courtroom. The judge banged his gavel. Silence. The sentence was harsh. 8 years in prison. They led Eleanor away, and she didn't even turn to look at her son. Alex sat motionless, staring straight ahead. I could see a muscle twitching in his jaw. After the session, we met in the hallway. Alex, don't say anything. His voice was faint. No, you're not. He looked at me, his eyes red, his face gray. They gave her 8 years. 8 years for my mother. She tried to kill me. I know, Sophia, but she's still my mother. I was silent. Then I did something I hadn't done in 3 months. I went up to him and hugged him. Just hugged him, without words. Alex flinched, then held me tightly, desperately. Forgive me, he whispered. For everything, for all of it. I know, I replied softly. We stood like that for a long time, in the cold courthouse hallway, and I felt something inside me shift. The resentment hadn't disappeared. It would take a long time to go away. But next to it, something else had appeared. Something like hope. That night, Alex came home not for a visit, but to stay. If you'll have me, he said, standing in the doorway with a duffel bag. I stepped aside, letting him in. I can't promise everything will be like it was before. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for a chance to build something new, better than what we had. I nodded. Then come in. The first few weeks were difficult. We were relearning how to live together, without the shadow of Eleanor hanging over us, without her calls and visits, without the need for him to be torn between 2 women. Alex had changed. It was noticeable in the small things, in how he listened to me without interrupting, in how he asked for my opinion, in how he defended me in conversations with friends and family. Your wife put your mother in prison, an uncle said to him at a family dinner. My wife exposed a criminal who tried to kill her, Alex replied calmly. If you ever say anything like that again, we're leaving. I watched him and didn't recognize him. This wasn't the Alex who for 3 years had hidden behind his mother. This was a man who had finally learned to choose. You surprised me, I told him that night. With what? With how you answered your uncle. Alex shrugged. I should have answered like that from the beginning. Defended you, not looked for compromises. Why didn't you before? He grew thoughtful. Mom was always the most important person in my life. My father died young, and she raised me alone. I got used to doing everything for her, her son, her friend, her support. And when you appeared, she felt threatened. And I didn't realize how she started to manipulate me, to turn me against you. Do you still love her? Yes. He didn't deny it. She's my mother. I can't change that. But loving her doesn't mean justifying her. She committed a crime and she's paying for it. It's fair. I nodded. I understood. It was difficult. Painful, but I understood. We'll get through this, I said. Together. That word, together, became our mantra in the following months. Together, we went to couples therapy, sifting through the rubble of old wounds. Together, we planned a future, free from Eleanor's shadow. Together, we learned to trust each other again. Richard visited us sometimes. He brought old books on jewelry, told stories from his time as an expert. He and I became friends. A strange friendship between a young woman and a retired criminalist, but a sincere one. How did you find me back then? I asked him one day on the subway. Richard smiled. I wasn't looking for you. It was a coincidence. I was on my way to work. I saw you, pale, exhausted, and the pendant on your neck. You know, when you work with poisonings for so many years, you start to notice things others don't. The color of your face, your weakness, it all pointed to chronic intoxication. And then I looked at the pendant and noticed that line. If it weren't for you, I'd be dead. Perhaps, but you're not. You're alive, healthy, and everything will be fine. And everything indeed began to be fine. Slowly, gradually, but it was getting better. My health returned. Without the poison in my body, the nausea disappeared completely. My appetite came back. I gained weight. 6 months after the trial, I looked like a different person. Rosy-cheeked, energetic, with a sparkle in my eyes. Our relationship with Alex was also improving. We learned to talk honestly, openly, without fear of hurting each other. We learned to argue constructively and to reconcile without resentment. Are you happy? He asked me one evening as we sat on the balcony watching the sunset. I thought for a moment. Yes. Not like before, in a light, carefree way, but in a real, deeper way. Me too. He took my hand and intertwined our fingers. You know, I'm glad all this happened. Not the poisoning, of course, but what came to light. I was living in an illusion, Sophia. I thought my mother was perfect, that you could love 2 women equally without hurting anyone. Now I realize how naive I was. And how do you see it now? I understand that love is a choice. Every day, every minute. And I choose you. I lean my head on his shoulder. I choose you too. And at that moment, I realized that, yes, we had gotten through it. Not immediately, not easily, but we had made it. A year passed, a year that changed everything. Our relationship, our outlook on life, our understanding of each other. I sometimes caught myself thinking that I was grateful for that terrible time, not for the pain or the fear, but because it had lanced the abscess that had been poisoning our marriage from the beginning. Eleanor was in prison. Alex went to see her once every couple of months. I didn't object. I understood that whatever she had done, she was still his mother. To cut that tie completely would be to force him to choose, and I didn't want to repeat Eleanor's mistakes. How is she? I would ask after each visit. She's aged a lot. And what does she say? Alex would shake his head, always the same. That I betrayed her. That I chose you. That she'll never forgive me. Does it hurt to hear that? It used to. Now I just feel sorry for her. She still doesn't understand what she did. She still sees herself as the victim. I would hug my husband, and he would bury his face in my hair. These moments of intimacy were special to us, not passionate, but profound. 2 people who had been through hell and found each other again. Work at the pharmacy continued. My colleagues, who had learned my story from the news, Eleanor's case had received wide media coverage, looked at me with a new respect. I didn't like those looks, but I endured them. You're a real hero, a young intern told me. I'm not a hero. I'm just a survivor. But you uncover the crime yourself, without the police. Not alone. Friends, casual acquaintances helped me. I couldn't have done it alone. It was the truth. Lucy, Richard, even the detective, They had all played their part. I had learned my lesson. Asking for help is not a weakness. Richard became a sort of grandfather to me, the one I never had. He visited on Sundays. He brought old books and pastries from his favorite bakery. We would drink tea in the kitchen, and he would tell stories from his practice. Sometimes terrible, sometimes funny, always instructive. "You know what surprises me most about people," he said one day. "What?" "Their capacity for self-deception." Eleanor sincerely believed she was protecting her son. She didn't see herself as a criminal. In her worldview, she was a loving mother fighting for her child's happiness. And that's the scariest part. Why? Because it's impossible to convince such a person. They live in their own reality, where they are the hero and everyone else is the villain. No evidence, no arguments can break down that wall. I grew thoughtful. I remembered Eleanor's face at the trial. Cold, contemptuous. I don't regret it. Not a shadow of a doubt. Even under the threat of prison. How can you live with people like that? I asked. You can't. You have to stay away. You did the right thing by breaking that vicious circle. But Alex still goes to see her. That's his choice and his right. The important thing is that he has learned to see her as she is, without illusions. The spring of that year came early and was warm. I love this time of year, when the city woke up from its winter slumber, when the air smelled of melted snow and the first flowers. Alex and I often walked in the evenings, holding hands like we did at the beginning of our relationship. "Do you remember how we met?" he asked one day. "Of course. You spilled coffee on me in a bookstore and then spent 2 hours apologizing until I agreed to give you my number. You were so funny, all red and stammering. I just couldn't believe such a beautiful girl would talk to me." I smiled. I remember that day in detail. The smell of fresh ink, his flustered smile, the coffee stain on my favorite blouse. I thought then, what a clumsy and cute guy. And I thought, she's the one, the woman of my life. Really, really, from the very first moment, I knew I wanted to be with you. We stopped by a fountain in the park. The jets of water sparkled in the rays of the setting sun. "Alex, I want to tell you something." He turned to me, a shadow of concern in his eyes. "Is something wrong?" "No." "Well, yes, but something good." I took his hand and placed it on my belly. "I'm pregnant." A moment of silence, and then his face lit up with such joy that my eyes filled with tears. "Really? Seriously? Totally serious? 8 weeks?" Alex swept me up in his arms and spun me around until I let out a little shriek. "Careful! I can't be spun around now." Sorry. He gently set me down but didn't let go. "Oh my God, we're going to be parents. You and I are going to have a baby. Yes, this is the best news of my life." He kissed my cheeks, my forehead, my nose, my lips. Passers-by turned, smiling at the happy couple. I laughed through my tears of happiness I had waited so long for. The pregnancy was easy, as if in compensation for those months of torment. No nausea, no weakness, no terrible morning attacks. I blossomed. My skin glowed. My eyes shone. Even my hair seemed thicker and more lustrous. "You're beautiful," Alex told me every morning. "I'm fat. You're magnificent. And you're carrying our child. That makes you even more beautiful." He was incredibly attentive, sometimes even too much so. He wouldn't let me lift anything heavier than a mug. He made me breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He monitored my vitamins and my sleep schedule. "I'm pregnant, not sick," I would laugh. "I know, but I want to take care of you. I want to make up for all the time I was an idiot." "You've already made up for it 100 times over." "Well, one more time won't hurt." Lucy came over every week, bringing fruit, baby magazines, endless advice about pregnancy. "You need to walk for at least an hour a day. Eat right. No stress." "Lucy, you're worse than a mother-in-law." My friend froze, realizing the double meaning. Then we both burst out laughing. "Well, at least I'm not poisoning you," Lucy said through her laughter. "That's true. You're just smothering me with your care. It's my job. I'm the godmother. We haven't decided on godparents yet. I've already decided for you. No objections will be accepted." I hugged my friend. What would I have done without Lucy? Without her support, her stubbornness, her endless loyalty? "Thank you." "For what?" "For everything. For being there when I was at my worst. For believing me when even my husband doubted. For that night in the storeroom. Lucy waved it off. Nonsense. It's us, you and me, against the world. Remember in college? I remember. We fell silent, reminiscing about our student years, the dorms, the exams, the late-night talks about the future. Everything seemed so simple then. Find a job, find love, be happy. Reality turned out to be more complicated, but also more interesting. Richard, upon hearing about the pregnancy, was moved to tears. A new life, he said, wiping his eyes with a handkerchief. After what you've been through, a new life is a miracle. You're exaggerating. Not at all. Do you know how many cases I handled in my career? Hundreds. And in most of them, the ending was tragic. Death, prison, broken families. But here, a happy ending. It's a rarity. Believe me. Thanks to you. What are you saying? I just noticed something was wrong. Everything else is your doing. I shook my head. If you hadn't approached me on the subway, I would be dead. That's a fact. Richard was silent. You know, at that moment, I hesitated. I thought, what if I'm wrong? What if this woman looks at me like I'm a lunatic? But something pushed me. Maybe intuition, maybe experience, or maybe fate. I believe in fate, I said. After everything that's happened, I believe. The months passed. My belly grew, the baby kicked, and every kick filled me with an indescribable happiness. I talked to my little one, sang songs, read books aloud. You're spoiling him? Alex laughed. Him or her? What? The ultrasound confirmed it. It's a girl. Alex froze. A girl? We're having a daughter. Yes. He knelt in front of me and rested his cheek on my belly. Hello, little one. I'm your daddy. I love you already. I stroked his hair, my heart overflowing with tenderness. This man, my husband, the father of our daughter, had been through fire to become who he was now. Not perfect, but real. We took a long time to choose a name. Hundreds of options. Anna, Alex suggested. No, too common. Isabella. Too long. So what? I thought. What if we name her after someone close to us? Like who? Your grandmother, for example. What was her name? Alex frowned. My paternal grandmother was Carmen. My maternal one. Dolores. Dolores? No. And Carmen. Clara. Clara is pretty. Clara Sanchez. Alex tried it out. Sounds good. Decided. Our daughter will be named Clara. We shook hands as if sealing an important deal, then laughed at ourselves, at our solemnity, at everything. The labor began at night as expected. I woke with a dull ache in my lower abdomen and knew. It's time. Alex! Alex, wake up! What? He jumped up as if stung, rushing around the room for his clothes, the keys, the hospital bag. Calm down, I said, though I was nervous too. The bag is by the door. The papers are inside. The car is in the garage. Yes, I know. I'm just panicking. I'm panicking too, he admitted. I smiled despite the pain. Then let's panic together on the way to the hospital. We got to the hospital in time. The contractions intensified, and by morning, I was in the delivery room. Alex stayed outside. He wanted to be present, but I refused. This is my test. I can handle it. Are you sure? Absolutely. And I did handle it. Clara was born at dawn, small, wrinkled, with a shock of dark hair and a surprisingly lucid gaze. When the midwife placed her on my chest, time stood still. Hello, little one, I whispered. I've waited so long for you. The baby looked at me seriously, intently, as if recognizing me, then yawned and closed her eyes. I cried from happiness, from relief, from overwhelming love. Everything I had been through, the poisoning, the betrayal, the pain, had led me here, to this moment, and it was worth it. They let Alex in an hour later. He tiptoed in as if afraid of scaring someone, then froze by the bed. It's her. That's her. That's Clara. He took his daughter in his arms, clumsily, like all new fathers. Clara whimpered a little, then quieted. She's so small, 7 pounds, a normal weight, and so beautiful. She looks like you. I smiled. She has your nose. See. Look. Alex examined the tiny face. Yes, maybe. And the chin is mine, too. See. Teamwork. He leaned over and kissed his wife, tenderly, gratefully. Thank you. For what? For everything. For existing. For forgiving me. For Clara. For our family. I took his hand. We're a team. Remember? The first few months with the baby were a whirlwind. Night feedings, endless diapers, colic and teething. Alex and I didn't sleep. We argued over little things. We made up even faster. I read that the first year with a baby is a test for a marriage, Alex said once, rocking a crying Clara. We've already passed a tougher test, I replied. This is nothing. And it was true. After the poisoning, the betrayal, the trial, sleepless nights seemed like a trifle. We managed, together as a team. Lucy became the godmother, as she had promised. Richard, the unofficial honorary grandfather. Little Clara grew up surrounded by love and care. For her first birthday, we threw a small party, just the closest family and friends. Lucy brought a giant teddy bear. Richard brought a small silver spoon, an antique engraved. For good luck, he said. Thank you. I hugged the old man. Over the year, he had become truly dear to me. How are you feeling? I asked him. He had looked tired lately. Normal age, you know. I'm not a young man anymore. You need to take care of yourself. I do. But when you have someone to live for, even illness retreats. He looked at Clara, who was seriously examining the gifted teddy bear. A wonderful girl, just like her mother. Alex says she looks like him. Then both of you, the best of both. That evening, after the guests had left and Clara was asleep, Alex and I sat in the kitchen finishing our tea. It's funny, I said. What is? A year ago, we were in the worst kind of hell. And now everything is fine. Really fine. Yes. Do you miss the old life? Alex thought for a moment. Sometimes. Not my mother, but the illusion that I had a perfect family. It was comfortable, you know, to believe that everything was okay. And now I know the truth. It's more painful, but it's more honest. He took my hand. And you know what? I wouldn't trade this honesty for anything. I nodded. I understood. Me neither. We fell silent. And it was a good silence, full of understanding, closeness, and love. Clara grew into an incredible child. At 2, she was already forming sentences. At 3, she asked endless questions about everything. I left my job at the pharmacy to devote myself to my daughter. Alex worked for both of us. He was promoted, and now we could afford it. You don't regret it? He would ask me. Not for a second. This is the best job of my life. And it was true. Watching my daughter grow, teaching her new things, seeing the world through her eyes. Nothing could compare to this happiness. Eleanor was still in prison. Alex continued to visit her, less frequently, once every 3 or 4 months. He always came back quiet, lost in thought. How is she? I would ask. Same. Nothing has changed. He no longer shared the details, and I didn't ask. It was his pain, his cross to bear. I could only be there for him. One day he came back from a visit, especially pensive. Sophia, I want to ask you something. What is it? Mom, she asked to see Clara. At least in a photo. I tensed. Did you show her? No. I told her I would talk to you first. I was silent. A part of me wanted to refuse outright. That woman had tried to kill me. What right did she have to see my daughter? But another part understood that she was Clara's grandmother, whatever she had done. I'll think about it. Alex nodded. Thank you for not saying no right away. I thought about it for several days. I consulted with Lucy, who was categorically against it, and with Richard, who told me the decision was mine. It's your family, he said, and your right to forgive or not. I don't know if I can forgive. Forgiveness is a process, not an event. Sometimes it takes a lifetime, but it starts with a small step. A week later, I gave Alex a photo of Clara, a small one, where she was smiling at the camera, holding a teddy bear. Can you show her this? He looked at me with gratitude. Are you sure? No, but it's the right thing to do. Clara has a right to know she has a grandmother, even if she did terrible things. Thank you. He hugged me tightly, gratefully, and I realized it was another step toward healing. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But a movement in that direction. The years went by. Clara went to preschool, then to school. She grew up to be a smart, curious girl with a strong character, a true mix of her parents. Who did she get the stubbornness from? Alex would laugh. From you, of course. That's a lie. You're the stubborn one here. I'm persistent. It's different. We argued like all families, but our arguments were different. No poison, no manipulation, no third parties trying to stir up trouble. Eleanor was released from prison when Clara was 7. Her sentence had been reduced for good behavior. Alex went to pick her up. I stayed home. I wasn't ready for that meeting. Maybe I never would be. He came back late that night, alone. How did it go? Strange. She's aged so much. Completely gray, very quiet. What did she say? She asked for forgiveness. I froze. For the first time in all these years. She said she thought a lot in prison, that she realized how wrong she was, that she ruined our lives. Yours, mine, and hers. And did you believe her? Alex was silent. I don't know. I want to believe her, but I'm scared. Scared of what? That it's another manipulation, that she hasn't really changed. I nodded. I understood his fear. I felt the same. What did you tell her? I told her that forgiveness is a process, that I need time. That's wise. Those are your words. You said them to me once. I smiled. I'm glad they came in handy. Eleanor settled in a small apartment on the outskirts of the city. Alex helped her financially. I didn't object. His mother was an old, sick, and lonely woman. Whatever she had done, that punishment was harsh enough. The first meeting between Eleanor and me took place 6 months after her release. I prepared for a long time, mentally and emotionally. I didn't know what to expect. Eleanor opened the door, and I barely recognized her, thin, stooped with a dull gaze. Nothing was left of the imperious, self-assured woman who had once terrified me. "Hello," Eleanor said softly. "Hello." A pause. Then Eleanor stepped aside. "Come in." The apartment was small and sparsely furnished. On the wall was a single photo, the same one Alex had brought her in prison, Clara with a teddy bear. "Would you like some tea?" "Yes, thank you." We sat at a tiny kitchen table. Eleanor poured the tea with trembling hands. "I'm glad you came. Alex asked me to." "I know, but you could have refused." I nodded. "I could have, but I didn't. I wanted to look you in the eye." "And what do you see?" I looked into her face. Age changed. "I see the woman who tried to kill me, and the woman who paid for it." Eleanor looked down. "I didn't want to. I didn't think." "You didn't think it was so dangerous." "I know. It's not an excuse." "No, it's not an excuse." Silence. Then Eleanor spoke softly, her voice broken. "When Alex brought you home, I was scared. He looked at you in a way he never looked at me. I realized I was losing him, and I couldn't accept it." "You weren't losing him. He loved you, but he loved me, too. And it seemed to me there wasn't room for both of us in his heart." I shook my head. "That's not true. There's always room in the heart for those you love. You yourself poisoned his feelings for you with your jealousy, with your intrigues. Long before that pendant." Eleanor flinched. "You're right. I know you're right. But I was blind then. And now I see. Late, but I see." We sat drinking tea for another hour. The conversation was difficult, painful, but necessary. I didn't forgive her. Not yet, but I took a step toward it. "I want to see my granddaughter," Eleanor said as we parted. "If you'll let me." I thought about it. "Not now. Maybe in time. When I'm ready." "I understand. And one more thing." "Yes. If you ever, even once, try to turn Clara against me, to deceive or manipulate her, I will never let you near her again. Is that clear?" Eleanor nodded. "Clear. I won't. I swear." I left without looking back. Alex was waiting for me on the street. "How did it go?" "Normal. Better than I expected." He hugged me. "You're an incredible woman." "You know that." "I know." We laughed together, like in the old days. The first meeting between Clara and her grandmother took place a year later. I prepared my daughter for a long time. I explained that Grandma had been sick and had done bad things, but that she was better now. "Like a cold?" Clara asked. "Something like that, but in her head. And now she's healthy." "I hope so." The meeting was on neutral territory in a park. Eleanor came with a gift, a book of fairy tales. "Hello, Clara," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm your grandmother." Clara looked at her seriously, with the same gaze as her mother. "Mom says you were sick." "Yes, but I'm better now." "That's good. Being sick is bad." Eleanor smiled for the first time in a long time. "Yes, it's bad, but I'm well now." She handed her the book. This is for you." Clara took the gift and thanked her politely. Then she turned to me. "Mom, can we go to the swings?" "Of course." The girl ran to the playground. Eleanor and I were left alone. "Thank you," Eleanor said quietly. "Thank you for giving me this chance." "Don't thank me. Thank Alex. He insisted. But you agreed." I was silent. "I'm not a saint, Eleanor. I haven't forgotten what you did, and I'm not sure I ever will. I'm not asking you to forget, but I'm tired of hating. It takes too much energy. Energy that I want to spend on my family, on my daughter, on being happy. That's wise. It's practical." We fell silent, watching Clara, who was swinging, laughing with joy. "She's beautiful," Eleanor said. "Yes, she is." It wasn't the end of a story. The relationship with Eleanor remained complicated. Not hostile, but not close either. I couldn't bring myself to love my mother-in-law, but I learned to coexist with her for the sake of my husband, my daughter, and my own peace of mind. Richard died when Clara was 10, peacefully in his sleep, with a smile on his face. I cried at his funeral as if he were my own family. He saved me. I told Alex. If it weren't for him, I know. I want Clara to remember him. She does, and she will. We put his photo on the mantelpiece next to the family pictures. Richard smiled from it with his wise smile, and it seemed to me that he was still nearby, looking out for me. Lucy got married late at 42, but happily. Her chosen one was a doctor from her clinic, a calm, reliable man with kind eyes. "I finally hit the jackpot," she laughed at the wedding. "You deserve it. We both do. You hit yours earlier. Me later. The important thing is that we hit it." I hugged my friend. "I'm so happy for you. And I for you. I always have been." We danced together, two friends who had been through thick and thin. Behind us were years, difficult, joyful, different. Ahead of us were more years, and we faced them together. One evening, when Clara was already 12, she came to me with a question. "Mom, is it true that Grandma wanted to poison you?" I froze. I knew this conversation would come one day, but I wasn't ready. "Where did you hear that?" "I found it on the internet. There are articles about the trial." "Clara!" See, the internet remembers everything. "It's true." "But why?" "Because she was sick. Not in her body, but in her soul. She loved Dad so much that she couldn't stand him loving someone else. But that's silly. You can love lots of people at once." "You can, but she didn't understand that." Clara thought for a moment. "And have you forgiven her?" I was silent. "I'm learning to forgive. It's hard. You know, when someone hurts you badly, it's impossible to forgive right away. But holding a grudge is even harder. That's why I'm learning." Clara hugged her mother. "You're the best mom in the world. And you're the best daughter." We stood like that, hugging in the quiet room. And I thought about the long road I had traveled. From that exhausted woman on the subway, saved by an unknown jeweler, to a happy wife and mother. The road had been hard. There were times when I wanted to give up. There were moments of despair and pain. But I endured. We endured, together with Alex, and it was worth it. That same evening, Alex found me by the window. I was watching the sunset, red, golden, incredibly beautiful. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "About life. About how everything turned out. Do you regret anything?" I thought for a moment. No, not even the bad things. Because without the bad, there wouldn't have been the good. We wouldn't be who we are now. Alex came up and hugged me from behind. "I love you. I love you too. Thank you for not giving up. For giving me a chance. Thank you for taking it." We stood by the window watching the sunset, and I felt absolutely, completely happy. Not because everything was perfect. Life is never perfect, but because I had learned to find happiness in what I had. Family, love, Clara. Everything good in my life. "Goodbye," I whispered. "I forgive you." And I felt something inside me release. Something heavy I had carried for all these years. The resentment, the pain, the fear, it all went away, dissolved, disappeared. Only love remained. For my husband, for my daughter, for life. And that was enough. Now, many years later, I sometimes take out an old photo. The one of Alex and me on our wedding day. Young, happy, not knowing what awaited us. If you had known then, what would you have done? Would you have stayed, fought, or run? I want to know, have you ever been blindsided by a betrayal that ultimately made you stronger? Tell me in the comments below.